tiny group. I don't know what that's about. Don't tweet about it if it's about me. But we're a very small group, and I've been asked not to mention who they are because we're so small that you'll be able to tell from the comments. But you know who you are, and you can certainly adjust me as I go forward if I'm making a grotesque misrepresentation of our conversation. So, Lords of the Cloud is a world which is commercially driven, and there's a lot of there's rapid innovation happening in this world. Just to recap, it's a world where forces of globalization have taken hold. It's an international marketplace, and the digital divide has widened. Just to set the context. We talked mostly about content, subsidies, and the Canadian economy was what we focused on in the time that we had together. And some of the issues, we did two pieces predominantly. We're talking about the challenges, or what was troubling or challenging in the world, and then looking quite quickly at what are some of the strategies. There was a lot of discussion. We talked about how in this world foreign ownership rules were relaxed. We talked a little bit about to what effect. Maybe that can move into a camp session this afternoon. Looking at the implications of decreasing subsidies, and looking at the mechanism of subsidies as being a way really where ownership of content is preserved, and if and then the subsidies come down, then perhaps where content is a service, we lose ownership. This would result in possibly in a decrease in production, and perhaps an increase in productivity. Would this result in a collapse of the industry, or will we come through it and thrive with a new model emerging? This is a critical question. Would Canada lose its talent, for example, to the US? When the question came up, well, where would they go? It's an internationalized marketplace. So that question was out in terms of its implication about the workforce and where would they be. The other issues that we came up were was about labor costs themselves. Will Canada's labor costs be too high to thrive in this world, was one question. And does Canadian culture have to happen in Canada or to be established internationally? Some of the strategies, we also talked about how distribution channels were really the main seat of power potentially in this world. The strategies, just a really quick list, I'll just read them quickly. Some of them might be contradictory because different players want different kinds of strategies, and we aren't trying to figure out a strategy for anyone clear at this point. But some things to consider was that it would be prudent to begin practicing weaning off of subsidies in terms of looking at what are the different ways that we can experiment in terms of decreasing production costs or making other kinds of, what would happen if we didn't have subsidies, and spend 5 years playing around with trying to do it, even though the subsidies haven't been taken away. We talked a little bit about retention of workforce because it came up earlier, and we talked about how Canada itself might be providing a good high quality of life, and that Canada itself might have its draw, for example, around the standard of living and issues, for example, access to water, etc. But that might be a national condition rather than an industry question. We talked about looking for investments and other kinds of capital injections, other subsidies. We talked about decreasing production costs, owning distribution channels, whatever they might be in the future. We talked about the Canadian dollar and how much leverage there really is around it, which we can get into a further discussion on that later. But we talked about the need to observe and respond in an international marketplace around what's happening with the cost of Canadian productions. We talked about the importance of already starting to beef up our international partnerships and investing in bolstering talent. And we talked about education and industry calibration as the industry is shifting in terms of its form, its needs, its size, and specialties that we also need to calibrate closely with education. We need to increase cultures of teleworking already, start to foster that within our groups, within our workplaces. And we also talked about becoming really creative with our marketing strategies at the local, national, and international level. And that was what we came up with. So, Any questions, any corrections? Any omissions?
How do you define subsidies? Do you mean tax credits and CMS?
We talked about, this is my hidden page. We talked a lot about subsidies and tax credits predominantly were the two focuses that we were looking at. Is there anyone else who can add?